Dorothy woke to the sharp sound of her phone ringing on a Thursday morning. Still groggy, she scrambled out of bed and searched frantically for it. She checked her bag, looked under the bed, and finally found it behind the door. It was Ronald, her wealthy boyfriend with the expensive car. He reminded her about their dinner plans that evening with his new boss, Michael. Ronald insisted she wear her blue skirt, the one he liked, and told her to meet him at 6:30. Before Dorothy could mention that the skirt was dirty, he hung up. Over breakfast with her mother and brother Oliver, Dorothy mentioned her evening plans. Oliver teased her about Ronald, mimicking how controlling he was, telling her what to do and criticizing her appearance. Dorothy snapped at him, but deep down his words stung because they held some truth. On the crowded morning train, Dorothy found herself surrounded by people glued to their phones. Ronald called again, changing their meeting place and reminding her about the time when the train entered a tunnel. Everyone's calls dropped, and passengers actually spoke to each other. But as soon as the train emerged, they all returned to their screens, including Dorothy, who answered yet another call from Ronald. At work, Dorothy confided in her friend Claire about her wardrobe crisis. Claire suggested they go shopping at lunch to find a new skirt. Later, while having coffee with Claire and their colleague Samantha, Ronald called again to change the meeting location. Samantha rolled her eyes and told Dorothy to forget Ronald and his constant demands. During their lunch break, Dorothy and Claire browsed through skirts at a shop. Dorothy fell in love with a beautiful red one, but hesitated because Ronald disliked red on her. Claire encouraged her to buy what she loved, not what Ronald wanted. Dorothy made her choice and bought the red skirt. Afterward, while Claire returned to work, Dorothy stopped at a cafe for coffee and called her mother to share her purchase. Her mother agreed that red looked wonderful on her. At a nearby table, a man named Harry was finishing his coffee and making a phone call. When he stood to leave, he accidentally knocked Dorothy's shopping bag to the floor. He apologized, picked it up, and handed it back to her with a kind smile. Dorothy thanked him warmly, noticing his genuine kindness. Harry left, still holding his phone. Back in his office, Harry heard a phone ringing and realized he had the wrong phone. When he answered, a confused Ronald demanded to speak to Dorothy. Harry explained there was no Dorothy there, leaving Ronald baffled. Harry tried calling his mother and reached Dorothy's mother instead. They both realized something strange had happened. Meanwhile, Dorothy heard an unfamiliar ringtone and discovered she had Harry's phone. A woman named Cecilia called, asking Dorothy to pass a message to her brother Harry about her birthday party that evening. Dorothy was completely confused. Her friends suggested she forget Ronald and go to the party instead. Harry asked a colleague for help figuring out his own phone number so he could contact Dorothy. After getting the number from his mother, he called Dorothy to piece together what happened at the cafe when Harry had knocked over her bag. They agreed to meet in Queen's Square at 6:45 to exchange phones. At 5:30, Dorothy put on her new red skirt. Samantha complimented her, and Dorothy felt beautiful. When Harry arrived at Queen Square, the plaza was packed with people on their phones. They called each other to locate one another, asking questions about hair color and what they were holding. Finally, near some trees, they met face to face. Harry thought Dorothy looked beautiful. Dorothy found him genuinely nice and kind. Harry apologized again and invited her for a drink to make up for the confusion. Dorothy agreed, though she mentioned she didn't have much time. They went to a nearby bar called the Blue Moon. Over drinks, Dorothy shared Cecilia's message about the birthday party. Harry felt terrible for forgetting his sister's birthday. Dorothy suggested he buy flowers from a vendor she noticed in the square. Harry thought it was a perfect idea, then spontaneously invited Dorothy to join him at the party. Cecilia always threw wonderful celebrations. Dorothy hesitated for just a moment. Harry mentioned he had a message from Ronald, but Dorothy stopped him. She didn't want to hear it. She wanted to go to the party with Harry. Before they left, Dorothy pulled out her phone and did something she had never done before. She turned it off completely. Across town at the Orion Bar, Ronald tried calling Dorothy again and again. The calls went unanswered. Dorothy and Harry walked out of the Blue Moon together. Harry glanced at her red skirt and smiled warmly, telling her he loved the color red on her. Dorothy smiled back, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. For once, she had chosen what made her happy instead of what someone else demanded. As they headed toward the flower vendor together, Dorothy realized that sometimes the best moments in life come from unexpected wrong numbers and the courage to answer a different kind of call.